Happy Friday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock Central Time, 5:11. So this is not a beer. This is a water down here. But technically, if you're on the West Coast, it's 3 o'clock. And you say it's 5 o'clock somewhere where it's 5 o'clock where I am, where I'm doing this YouTube live from. So go ahead, crack open the beer. Get ready to talk some 49ers offensive line. That's what we're going to do today. I'm going through every single 49ers position group. Those of you who've been watching, who already subscribed to the channel, have been liking the videos, know that we did secondary, linebackers, and D-line earlier this week. Today, this Friday at happy hour, it is the 49ers offensive line. With the big question being, how good will the 49ers O-line be in 2022? Because this is the operative question. We can talk about Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback position until our face turns blue. But if the 49ers do not get at least semi-competent pass protection from their offensive line, they will not win a Super Bowl, period. They didn't win a Super Bowl in 2019 because the pass protection wasn't good enough. They didn't make the Super Bowl in 2021 because the pass protection wasn't good enough. And 2020 was a complete train wreck because the pass protection was a train wreck. Center position in the middle of that season. I mean, it led to a quarterback injury. The left guard, actually, that was Laken Tomlinson in week 2, got beaten by Quinnen Williams for the first quarterback injury. But you still remember that game against Seattle? What was it, week 10 of the 2020 season? 49ers couldn't pick up a blitz in the A-gap. I mean, it was bad. And the pass protection hasn't been good throughout the entirety of the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch tenure. Number 26 pass block win rate for 2 straight years in 19 and 20. I think they were a little bit better last season, but it still wasn't good enough, especially after Mike McGlinchey tore his quad. It's a run-blocking first offensive line, and maybe that reflects a lot of the reality around the NFL. It is tough to be good in pass protection against some of these ultra-athletic edge rushers and the Aaron Donalds of the world who are rushing inside. But the team who finds a way to scrap and claw and get some of the pass rush, the pass blocking prowess on the right page, get some of it together at a competent level, that team is going to be in a big-time driver's seat. You saw in the Super Bowl last year, the Rams didn't do a great job protecting Matt Stafford, but they did a lot better job than the Bengals did protecting Joe Burrow, and obviously the Rams won that football game. So the 49ers have to find a way to be better up front here in 2022 than they have been in previous seasons of the Shanahan-Lynch tenure. I made a video last week talking about Trey Lance's escapability and how that's probably necessary in this new day and age of the NFL with the proliferation of really powerful, strong defensive linemen because they are overmatching offensive linemen. But I don't care what Trey Lance's escapability is. If the 49ers don't block decently well up front, the escapability won't matter. It will be snap, 1/1000, or one alligator if you want to count in the old school playground terms. And Trey Lance is going to be facing contact, facing the pass rush. And that's not good enough for any quarterback. The evidence of that is the Super Bowl before this most recent one, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Chiefs had a lot of injuries up front. Patrick Mahomes had no chance in that game. Kansas City, I think, scored, 9 points all game the year after their offense lit the 49ers up over the final half of that fourth quarter in the Super Bowl. So pass protection is king in the NFL. I mean, it's a passing league. We get that. It's a quarterback's league. We get that. But pass protection is what allows the quarterback to do what he does. And that's why the 49ers offensive line is such a major question entering this 2022 season. I am going to open up the State of the 49ers offensive line piece. This is something that Matt Barrows and I wrote back in February. State of the 49ers offensive line. Progress in pass protection, but more strides are needed. If you want to go check that one out, I'll put it in the comment section in a little bit, in the chat section right now. You can subscribe to The Athletic for about $1 a month. I think that's still the price. So check it out in the chat section. This was the piece that we wrote back in February. We're going to return to a piece like this before training camp here in a few weeks. Ever since we wrote this piece in February, the 49ers have added pieces to the offensive line, mainly through the NFL draft. And those pieces are going to have to help this team turn a corner because they've also lost pieces since we wrote this piece. Laken Tomlinson, the starting left guard of the past several seasons, is now a New York Jet. And Alex Mack, the 49ers starting center, solved the problem for this team in 2022, is now retired. So how are the 49ers going to move forward? Well, the first question for this team: can Aaron Banks legitimately replace Laken Tomlinson? I don't think anybody's arguing that Laken Tomlinson was a world beater at left guard. In fact, just a couple minutes ago, I pointed out that in 2020, he was the one that allowed the pressure from Quinnen Williams that led to Jimmy Garoppolo's high ankle sprain. And that sent the whole 2020 season into a spiral from the very get-go. So Laken Tomlinson wasn't a great pass protector. He was a solid pass protector. He developed over his time with the 49ers. But what he was is he was a good run blocker and an extremely dependable player who only missed time when his shoe came untied a couple seasons ago for the 49ers. So on a roster where injuries were king, Laken Tomlinson was a fixture at left guard, and boy, did the 49ers need that. They, however, did not deem it necessary to match the Jets in their offer of over $13 million annually for Laken Tomlinson because of what I just mentioned. He wasn't the best pass protector. Let's go to the metrics. This is the 2021 49ers offensive line efficiency. You could take a look. Blue is good, red is bad. Tomlinson is blue across the board, so that means he's above average in both pass blocking efficiency, this column right here, and run blocking grade from PFF, this column right here. He also leads the 49ers with 1,264 snaps because he's so durable. But you can tell that it's light blue for the pass blocking efficiency. It was actually Laken's first year in the blue and not the red in pass blocking efficiency. So good guard, good in both phases of the game, pass and run blocking, stays healthy. Laken Tomlinson, for that reason, signed a deal worth over $13 million for the Jets. But he is not a world beater in pass protection, and the 49ers are looking to get better in pass protection. So the question is, what is Aaron Banks going to bring to the table? Second-round player now out of Notre Dame. We only saw 6 snaps in garbage time from Aaron Banks last year, and the 49ers have said that he's reworked his body. Right? He weighed 338 pounds at the Senior Bowl in 2021 coming out of college. And we're used to Kyle Shanahan guards being smaller, nimbler, more agile. So it caught everyone, I think, by surprise when the 49ers drafted a 338-pounder in the second round back in 2021. A guy who's, the height and weight suggests he might be a bit of a beer truck out there. 49ers like the nimble guards. Aaron Banks was a big guard. But they firmly believed ever since the time of drafting that Aaron Banks can move, even though that he's a huge guy. But obviously they did have to get him into some type of NFL shape. So he's now probably in the 320s. He might have lost a little bit of weight. But the main thing the 49ers say is they're not trying to make him a slim guy. They're trying to take the mass that's already there, use that to be able to anchor in pass protection better than the typical light lineman. And they're hoping that Aaron Banks can then move at the level of a slimmer guy, but with the mass of a 320-plus pounder. And the 49ers, if you talk to Chris Foerster, the offensive line coach, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, any of these people, they say that Aaron Banks has put in the physical work over the course of the past year. And now it's just wait and see time. This is what I wrote about Aaron Banks in June of last year, 2021. He's from the Bay Area, El Cerrito, East Bay. That's him playing basketball. And some of his basketball highlights are really, really fun to watch. Oops, went out of there. Back to the Google search. Here we are. Some of the basketball highlights from El Cerrito make you say, whoa, this guy can move a bit. It's not, the pure, 320-plus pound. I don't want to use the term beer truck again, but I think that's probably the best word to use in this situation, the best term to apply to a player who's that big at the high school level. Normally, there isn't much footwork. Normally, it's a situation where you're like, this guy will beat people with his size, but he's not really beating people with his movement. But as you can see here, Aaron Banks' basketball highlight clips from El Cerrito High School, he's a good passer. He's deft on his feet. There is potential light movement on his feet. There you see the left-handed layup. There is the ability to win strategically and not just with brute force. And the 49ers saw this. They saw Banks playing both left and right guard at Notre Dame. And they said, we think that we can take this big man and develop him into an offensive lineman, and particularly a guard that will work within our system. So are the 49ers correct? Well, we'll find out. But Aaron Banks is going to have to replace Laken Tomlinson successfully if this team is going to reach its aspirations. Because as you saw, Laken was a solid player. He wasn't a perfect player, but he was a solid one. And he's left to the Jets for big money. And now the 49ers really need their second-round draft pick from 2021 to showcase that he has, in fact, reworked his body to be able to deliver those kind of depth movements at the NFL level, but also to anchor in pass protection, because that's going to be absolutely paramount for the 49ers this season. So we have to wait and see. Aaron Banks is going to be a big variable for the 49ers in this upcoming campaign. Then there's the issue of replacing Alex Mack. Is Jake Brendel really capable of replacing Alex Mack? A lot of people wanted a veteran center. A lot of people were nervous when the 49ers didn't sign J.C. Tretter, who remains a free agent. Well, there are a couple of reasons why the 49ers haven't signed J.C. Tretter. One is he's got bad knees, and he's missed a lot of practice time, whereas Jake Brendel, he's practiced with Trey Lance throughout all of the 2021 season. There's a level of familiarity in that center quarterback battery if you have Brendel snapping and Lance as the quarterback. And the 49ers didn't want to take a risk on somebody who would be a more expensive player with enough injury issues to keep him out of a lot of practices. They'd rather have the guy who can develop day in, day out with Trey Lance. And they really believe in Jake Brendel. And here is why the 49ers believe in Jake Brendel. When he was coming out of UCLA, which is set to go to the Big Ten now, that's the big news from yesterday, Jake Brendel was an ultra athletic center in terms of pre-draft testing. 97th percentile 20-yard shuttle, 90th percentile 3-cone drill, 84th percentile broad jump, 90th percentile 40-yard dash. He could sure move. He wasn't really big enough to play regularly at the NFL level back then at only 286 pounds. But now he's 300 pounds, and now they still think that he is exceptionally athletic. And we know that the 49ers in their outside zone offensive system want exceptional athleticism. Alex Mack had it for much of his career. Alex Mack obviously was older during his time there with the 49ers. Weston Richburg was able to make the difficult blocks the 49ers require. Ben Garland was a good athlete for the 49ers at center. Well, they hope that Jake Brendel is going to be able to be that athlete for them at the center position. Now, can he anchor in pass protection? Can he cerebrally handle what the 49ers need to once the bullets start flying? Those are all questions that we'll see moving forward, but the 49ers are confident. And they're going to have a new center in Jake Brendel, in all likelihood, taking over that spot, and a new left guard in Aaron Banks. And those two positions are going to go such a long way in determining if this 49ers team can actually meet some of its aspirations, if Trey Lance can actually blossom into the player many think he can be. Because, again, you need competent pass protection, and the 49ers need to replace two of those offensive linemen up front. So that's why this question right here is such a pressing one. How good will the 49ers offensive line be in 2022? There are more variables to address, like Mike McGlinchey, who got hurt in week 9 last year, torn quad, ended his season. He's on track to be ready by training camp. Mike was having his best season yet in terms of pass protection at right tackle before he got hurt in week 9 last year. So is he going to not skip a beat? Is he going to be back from this injury, pass protecting at an above average level again? That's the big question, because with two new offensive linemen at center and left guard, I think you really need right tackle to be locked down. And then if you're the 49ers, you need to get McGlinchey's counterpart at right guard figured out too, because the worst performing offensive lineman on this team last year was Daniel Brunskill, and that was the right guard. And I think Daniel Brunskill is an exceptionally versatile offensive lineman. He's played center for the 49ers before. He's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. He's played right guard. When you talk about the need for depth, which is what I'm going to do in a couple minutes with this 49ers team, Brunskill, to me, is a dream depth O-line piece. We saw that in 2019 when he played all those positions, both tackles and right guard for the 49ers. But he did get beat a lot at right guard, especially in pass protection last season. And that leads me to believe, will the 49ers be looking to upgrade that position with one of the lower round draft picks that's already on their roster? And the most likely candidate to me seems to be Jalen Moore out of Western Michigan. He's going to be a second-round player. Saw some time at tackle last year, even started at left tackle there for a game. But Jalen Moore is a guy with the 49ers all along have viewed more as a guard than as a tackle due to his measurables. Moore has had a time, a former fifth-round pick, to season his game over the course of a year. And now the question is, will he push Brunskill for that right guard spot? That's going to be one of the most interesting projects in as far as the 49ers trying to turn some of their lower round depth around the corner, because they're going to need to do that. That's why I've written this on the screen. They're going to need to do that to reach their goals in 2022. This is a marathon of an NFL season. 5 offensive linemen won't cut it. The 49ers in every single season have learned that lesson. In some seasons, they've been better equipped to deal with it than others. In 2021, well, they weren't all too well equipped with it to deal with it in the NFC Championship game when Trent Williams played on a high ankle sprain. And the 49ers, I mean, it was hard to trust somebody like Colton McKivitz behind him. McKivitz played in that Week 18 game against the Rams, but he did give up a lot of pressure. And we did see that the 49ers were rather thin on that defensive line. So you have to develop a robust unit of backups who can at least hold the ship afloat while guys are hurt. Jalen Moore, he might be in that mix. Maybe he wins out at right guard. That puts Daniel Brunskill into the mix. That might make you breathe easier for the 49ers because Brunskill could play everywhere, tackle, center, guard. But there's going to be other names that are going to have to show up. And for that, I've got to pop open the 49ers depth chart. So why don't we get this open? Why don't we look at some of the other names that are going to have to do some work for the 49ers this year and be part of an offensive line that's at least 7, preferably 8 offensive linemen deep. Because with that depth, you can navigate the marathon of the NFL season. So here we go. Roster is open. Offensive line is right here. As far as making the 53-man roster, obviously I have the starters: Williams, Banks, Brendel, Brunskill, McGlinchey, Colton McKivitz. Yes, it was spot duty in Week 18. He played well enough to allow the 49ers to win, but you wouldn't trust him to start regularly, at least based on what we've seen so far. The 4th-round draft pick, Spencer Burford, tossed some people around in college at UTSA. Will he be immediately ready to take over a guard spot? I highly doubt it, which is why I have Jalen Moore penciled in behind Brunskill at right guard. And then Nick Zakelj, later round draft pick out of Fordham, might be a future center for the 49ers. Really, really smart player who the 49ers also think has a streak of nasty in him. But Nick Zakelj is coming from an Ivy League school in Fordham, or Patriot League school in Fordham. Technically, that's the league they play in. Vince Lombardi went to Fordham as well. And you look at Zakelj, and you probably say it's going to take maybe a year or two of seasoning to have him ready for this level. So you look at some of the other rookies. Donovan West, 49ers looking at him as a center. Jason Poe, he's the shortest offensive lineman in the league, built like a bowling ball. Maybe he gets some H-back fullback duties. I did a video about him earlier. Keaton Sutherland, maybe I should put Sutherland at center. I have him at left guard right now, but Sutherland played some center for the Bengals last year. He is a reserve at that position. Sam Schluter, undrafted free agent out of Minnesota. He's a tackle. Justin Schools coming off a torn ACL. He missed all of 2021. He's been back out of practices. And then you have the international exception player, Alfredo Gutierrez. He will not make the 53-man roster. That's what you have for the 49ers in the offensive line room. The question is, how many of these lower round depth pieces, whether it be McKivitz, whether it be Moore, or if it's one of the guys they picked this year, Zakelj or Spencer Burford, how many of these guys are going to turn the corner and be ready to contribute quality snaps with decent consistency now? That's the question, because the 49ers need that. They're going to need quality snaps with decent consistency beyond their starting 5 offensive linemen. And if they don't get that, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. It's as simple as that, because you're going to have injuries. You're going to have to weather the storm of the season. And if you have a weakness along the offensive line, the league will expose it mercilessly. And since you have a young quarterback, any league exposing O-line weaknesses mercilessly is not going to be a pretty sight for your football team. So there's a lot of pressure, not just on the starting 5 for the 49ers, but on McKivitz, on Burford, on Jalen Moore, maybe even Nick Zakelj, maybe Justin School, or whoever makes this roster. There's a lot of pressure on those guys to get the job done here in this 2022 season, because it's going to take more than 5 offensive linemen to do the task for the 49ers. End of the day, this is the truth. Trey Lance needs at least some level of competence from this offensive line for the 49ers to reach their goals. Are they going to deliver it or not? Well, we'll see. Trent Williams is a stud on the left side. He's got to stay healthy. We'll see what they have with Aaron Banks. We'll see what they have with Jake Brendel. We'll see what they do at right guard, and we'll see where Mike McGlinchey is coming off the torn quad at right tackle. We'll also see about all those depth pieces. We'll see is the theme of this offensive line. And if you're nervous as a 49ers fan, perhaps you should be. because there is a lot up in the air. But Chris Foerster is a great offensive line coach. There is talent in the room. This is why they do training camp. This is why they play the games. We'll see if the 49ers offensive line can answer the bell moving forward, because they certainly will need to if this team is to reach the goals that it desires to reach. All right, guys, let's answer some questions. Mike asks, any concern if Williams goes down with McKivitz playing more than a few games? Oh, hell yeah. If you saw it last year, McKivitz gave up 5 pressures in week 18. I think the 49ers were so concerned, and Williams was so concerned, that he legitimately played on a high ankle sprain in the conference championship game. Trent Williams going down would not be a good thing for the 49ers. He's one of the best, if not the best player in the NFL, and you need him at that left tackle position, just a complete freak of nature. George Kittle told a story the other day about him just leg pressing, repping, I think 680 on the squats. And then the guy could dunk a basketball. He moves around like a running back. I mean, Trent Williams especially, you don't want him to get hurt. I think Daniel Brunskill's a tackle. I think that's his best position. I really do. He played tight end at San Diego State. So he's a convert from tight end to the offensive line. And when you're playing tight end, you're playing out in space. Tackles get to play out in space and outside zone. Guards, yes, a little bit, but not nearly as much. So I think Brunskill is a better tackle than anything. But the 49ers have had to play him at center and at guard. And most recently, he started at guard. So I think Brunskill's an excellent swing tackle, sixth man for the offensive line, because he could fill in at left or right like he did in 2019. But then, he can also fill in at center and at that guard position. And he started a couple seasons at the guard position for the 49ers. Yeah, Tomlinson did have a good attitude. Tomlinson was a good, solid player. He wasn't a world beater, which is why the 49ers didn't back up the Brinks truck for him. But he was a solid, durable player, and it's not going to be easy for Aaron Banks to replace him. All right, any more questions? Right here. You think it's set in stone that Brendel is the starting center, barring injury? I don't think it's set in stone. I think he's the favorite to start at center. That's going to be the setup the 49ers have entering training camp. If it turns out to be a complete disaster, which I don't think the 49ers anticipate, because Brendel's a veteran. He's been around. I don't think that this is rookie kind of volatility here. But if it's a complete disaster, J.C. Treader will probably still be there as a backup plan, given the fact that he is unsigned right now, and people have pointed to the knees as a reason. But Brendel is definitely the favorite to start for the 49ers at center. The 49ers, will they make a long-term commitment to Daniel Brunskill? Well, they don't have to right now. He's a restricted free agent, was this offseason, so they tendered him for 1 season, $4 million and change. And after this year, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And at that point, the 49ers will have to decide if they're going to commit further to Daniel Brunskill. So it's a big contract year for Brunskill. He's obviously the favorite to start at right guard, but maybe the 49ers with Jalen Moore and other machinations are able to put him into that utility role. I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I would expect probably to see him at least start training camp at right guard, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Contract talks still a long time away. He's making about $4.133 million on the RFA tender this season. The O-line might have to be able to block longer because Trey holds the ball longer. Yeah, that's true partially. The release is not as quick as Garoppolo's. The processing probably not as quick since he's a younger QB. But Lance also, one of the reasons why he holds the ball longer, why the time to throw was the highest in the league last year, is because he takes off and runs a little bit. He scrambles a little bit. So that can help the 49ers offensive line, right? But you don't want to get into an Arizona game situation. I think it was, week 5 last season, where it was just holding call. I'm not blaming it on Lance, but the offensive line needs to be able to, have that interplay with Trey Lance, have that cohesion with Trey Lance. So when he's darting around, scrambling a little bit back there, so they're not holding all the time. Flag. You can't have that if you're the 49ers. So it is a two-edged sword, though, with that time to throw. Yes, that means that he is probably taking a little bit more time with his progressions and the release, but it also has to do with the fact that Trey Lance is moving around back there in the pocket because he's got the athleticism to do so. Do you think Brunskill played better, or at least even with McGlinchey at right tackle in 2019? I do. Brunskill was actually like a top 15 right tackle, maybe top 12 right tackle in 2019. Brunskill was really, really good. at that position. The question is, can he maintain that level of play over a longer stretch? He's a lighter guy. Obviously, was not drafted. Obviously, doesn't have McGlinchey's pedigree. So from a physical standpoint, you're not sure. But that's why I love Brunskill in spot duty. It's kind of a sixth offensive lineman. All right, I'm going to have to get going here. I hope everybody enjoyed this peek into the 49ers offensive line. It's been fun. If you're just coming in, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going through all these position groups, and it's been a whole lot of fun actually kind of refreshing the mind on the 49ers roster. So let's get this sub count up. It's been growing steadily, but hey, content in the off season, it's worth its weight in gold, right? Hope everybody has a good 4th of July weekend. Stay safe out there. Go out on the lake, do what you need to do. It's going to be fun, and I'll keep on trying to churn out some of this 49ers material. Everybody, thanks for watching. Subscribe and take care.